May the God of new life and the God of new possibility be with us. Amen. You ever gotten unexpected news? We all have, different times in our lives. If I asked you, I did this at the sunrise service, I asked people to think about what was the last time, or maybe a more significant time in your life, when you got unexpected news. If you could think about it for a second. And then I asked people to say, was it good news or was it bad news? Oftentimes, unexpected news, when we think about it, it's bad news, right? And that's because, actually, the way our brains work is that bad news sticks like Velcro and good news sticks like Teflon, they say, right? So we have to actually, when something's beautiful and wonderful, we have to remember it. We have to hold it longer than anything that's bad that happens to us. Well, I want to tell you about some unexpected news that I got. When my daughters were at 10 weeks in utero, we went in to get an ultrasound, and that's not them. That's not an early childhood photo. That's just one taken from the internet. So just so you know, I'm not that good with things. And all of a sudden it's like, look, there's 2 of them. And my response as a dad, I was getting used to the idea about being a dad. And then all of a sudden I'm going to be a dad of twins. I just laughed. And I couldn't stop laughing. In fact, I couldn't stop laughing for the next couple days. I was filled with joy. See, I know that twins are possible. I'm not an idiot. But I didn't think that they were in my life. Suddenly, not only are they in my life, but they've really been the center in many ways of my life. Unexpected news in this case was I greeted with great joy. I remember there's other times when it happened publicly. Remember when the Berlin Wall fell in 1989? Some of you are too young to remember that. That's kind of an interesting thing. When that happened, we didn't see it coming, really. And there was this, the whole world had shifted on that day. There was joy. There was possibility. We remember other days. We remember on September the 11th when we heard that incredible news, and most people can remember exactly where they were on that day. In fact, in many ways, that day has reverberated out and has continued to shape us for good and for ill as a society ever since. And even just now, about just over a week ago, when you heard the unexpected news of the destruction by fire of Notre Dame Cathedral, it was a moment where I just had to stop and watch for a while and just to be shocked, perplexed, troubled. How do we react to unexpected news, right? How do you react when new things come to you that are bigger and your whole world went from being before and after? And you can imagine yourself before, and now everything is changed because now there's this new thing that's come. Sometimes it's laughter and when we have surprise and joy, and other times it's tears, confusion, grief, anxiety. And so today, as you come to Easter Sunday, as I am here as well, I don't know where you're sitting. I don't know whether you're in a time of joy or whether you're in a time of grief. But just know whatever time it is for you, you are welcome here. And God welcomes all of our emotions, all of them. In fact, I love all the emotions as they're accounted for in this story. Here's these beautiful, wonderful, faithful women, the women who were the only ones who stayed with Jesus there at the cross. And now here they are back on Sunday morning to go anoint this body. They're doing what they think needs to be done to honor their beloved friend. And when they find that the tomb is empty, when they see absence, before there's any proclamation, it says that they're first confused, perplexed, and then after that, when an angel shows up and says, here's the good news, he's risen, now they're actually terrified. Not the experience we often would think, right? We have these emotions that come up to us when new news comes, even when it's great news. Your friend that was dead is no longer dead, but has risen. In fact, they even said, don't you remember he told you that was going to happen? And we, all these thousands of years later, sometimes can look back and think, how is it that they didn't see this coming? Because he says it just 2 pages ago that he was going to rise from the dead. But here's the thing. You can't believe a thing if it's never really happened, if it doesn't fit your worldview. They ask, the angels ask an interesting question. It's a question for us today. Why do you seek the living among the dead? Let's broaden it from the obvious, literal, I came to see a corpse and now there's a raised person. Let's think about it broader than that. What if that's a question for a much larger consideration for us today? Why do we seek the living among the dead? Think of these places that are dead. We get stuck in these grooves, these mental patterns. Things will always be just like they are now. You can't change the system. People don't really change. Death is the end. Once you die, you're dead. We have these beliefs because this is the way we think the world works. The people with the money will always take all the power. Those who are of a certain racial or ethnic background will always be the ones in charge. This is how men will always have some dominance over women. We think about all these ways in which we just get used to the way that things are, and I want to tell you, brothers and sisters, that is the way of death. Because things change. We evolve. We grow. New life happens. And when it happens, we can open our minds to something brand new. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what we have right now in our pockets technologically from where we were years ago? I remember watching Star Trek, the original one with William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy, and they had the little communicators, right? They would flip open this thing and they'd be able to talk to each other. My phone does more than that. We're way past what we thought was science fiction back in the day. Think about that in terms of every other part of our life. What does Easter mean? Unexpected, mind-expanding news. Here's this, just in. The whole world could be different and will be, including yours. So, when the women got this unexpected news and they went from being perplexed and terrified, it says then they remembered the words, they put those words back together, and now they trusted it, and they ran back to the disciples. It was all high fives, right? Everyone was, yes, thank you for sharing that good news, ladies. Really appreciate you stepping up for us. And no, didn't go that way. If you read the text, it says that their words seemed to them as idle tales, and they did not believe them. This is just women talking to each other, and the men who were there didn't believe them, except for one person wanted to check it out, Peter. Peter goes and he runs to the tomb. He goes in there and he finds, again, nothing. No words from the angels in this gospel, but just the absence confirmed their story for him. And he now was able to trust and believe. And then I imagine he came back and mansplained it to everybody else. Right? He was amazed. This is the predominant emotion of Easter. To be amazed. Amazed at the power of God in you. Amazed at the amount of change that can happen for you and for the world. Amazed at what you, at this time, and I have been called to be about. It's not an accident that we're here right now, at this hinge of history. We have been called to do something brand new through the power of God. The rest of the disciples didn't get it either. I love this cartoon. You can't read it from there. Anybody, they're sitting there, and he says, I know he was really special, but dead don't come back. He's standing right behind me, isn't he? Right? So this theme of not believing, the women don't trust it, Peter doesn't trust it, then he does. The other disciples, they don't trust it, then they do. And next week, we're going to have Doubting Thomas. And Doubting Thomas, that's a joke for the little kids here. And Doubting Thomas is also next week going to be another person who just wants what everyone else has, some tangible proof. So we'll ask the question, what about us? What do you do with this unexpected good news? I know I'm asking us to believe a big thing. Jesus rising from the dead. And I don't have a ton of, I can't go back and show you on this screen proof. Or can I? What if this is proof? What if the proof of the resurrection is the process by which caterpillars become butterflies, or where people can reconcile their hurts? What if just the laughter of children is a sign of God's constant renewing presence? Or when people can meet across socioeconomic and racial and other borders that we put up between each other and touch each other? What if that is the sign of the resurrection? What if all of that is meant to recharge us into some new way of thinking so that we could then go from there to some new way of being, and God help us maybe into a new way of acting and loving? Then we can join our sister Mary, Mary of Magdala, the one who is the ultimate evangelist. And we can join her statement that trust, and we can trust that love is ultimately stronger than death. Amen. Our song of response is Jesus Christ is risen today. I invite you to stand as you're able.